live and online. It's Sleepless with Steve and the Movie Book Club with your host, Steve Pulaski.
Back and better than ever, Sleepless with Steve, live on YouTube. You might only see two individuals, but I assure you we are all here on this Wednesday evening. Sunny, hazy Wednesday in the Midwest. We are live and in living color every Wednesday evening, 6:30 Central Time, and we've got another big show for you. Radically different from last week. The death of Dick Long kind of went back in the archives for an A24 movie that we missed, and that's what we reviewed last week. This week, though, it is the movie that kicks off the summer movie season, movie-going season as well. And it's, I guess you could have said Guardians 3 did that as well, but with this one being at the end of May, I kind of think of it more as late May being the start of summer. And we're going to be talking about Fast X. And unlike last year, this is no Top Gun Maverick. We are going to be talking about Fast X. That's our big review today, as well as HBO Max officially becoming Max. And yeah, we got some thoughts on that, some first impressions of another new streaming app that sounds like a parody of a streaming app already. But Dominic Guanzon is here in the trademark blue polo, and you know, I could swear that Joe is supposed to be here as well, even though he's not making himself visible.
Oh, I'm here. Don't worry. I'll make myself visible when the time is right.
Oh my God.
I didn't realize that this was going to be a rehearsed bit until about a minute and a half before we're going live, and I'm like, I don't know when I'm supposed to like levy his introduction over here or anything. So I was like, if I acknowledge his absence, will he appear or not? But Joe Viso is at least momentarily with us in spirit. First things first, though, how are you, Dominic?
This is a good bit. I appreciate this bit. I'm doing all right. I'm doing well. There's a lot happening. I've tried streaming obviously we've been doing this for a while, but tried individually streaming with a camera and everything, face streaming for the first time, doing jazz transcriptions, and it's not entertaining. Like, I'm doing it and I realize, yeah, I should be like entertaining to the audience. Nah. I'm literally, my doctrine is literally do my own shit and then explain things occasionally to like throw them a bone. And if I can get like one person who's really into it, I'm set. I am set. I don't give a crap about the views. I'm there to build an audience, which I think we're very effective at doing. Because Steve has built an audience. He literally is dating someone to guarantee a spot in the audience. So Catherine, shout out to you. That is the sole reason why. I'm sure. I don't. No. He hasn't told me, but I'm guessing that's it.
No underlying.
Not the happiness that you bring him. Not like the memories or the love or anything. Just that.
And beautiful. No, I always said I'd do this for an audience of one or none. You know what I mean? Like,
I like that.
Essentially, I get to talk to my best friends every once a week, if nothing else, and we get to share our thoughts on things as well. But cool to see you still going hard with the jazz criticism and everything, or like sort of the jazz blogging and whatnot too. I know that's been a long time passion of you. I don't know what your formal title for that is, but
I don't know. I'm jazz explorer. That sounds even worse. I don't know. Critics dumb, but I'll tell you what, it's expensive. It's expensive. If you don't, if you're not in the in crowd and you're just on everyone's guest list, not that I would ever be that at all, or anyone could even be like that. I don't know. This is Howard Reich. He was the jazz critic for the Chicago Tribune. I wonder how many free shows he got. But regardless, yeah, it was expensive because it ain't cheap to go to the city, first and foremost. A lot of gasoline, but also
you're absolutely in the trenches too. You're shelling out the black Amex for these shows.
There you go.
And Joe, how are you? You're unseen, but you are certainly heard. How are you doing, Joe?
I'm doing great. Real quick, before I get into how I'm doing, we have a question from the audience, Dom. The tank behind you, is that for a pet lizard or something?
Yes, it is. My snake, Honey.
Yeah.
She's very shy and she has a neurological disorder, so it's called the wobble. Any snake owner can tell you about the wobble. So most snakes, they're very like smooth and very effective at like navigating, the topsy turvy of like a tree branch, for instance, right? They can do this very effectively. Unfortunately, honey can't tell, has difficulty, telling up from down and stuff like that. So she's got to wobble. But yeah, that's honey. Chelsea snake technically. I'm not a snake guy, but I've become a snake guy. But yeah.
Nice.
Does she react when you play the VIC song Wobble?
No, unfortunately. The wobble might line up with the song, but I don't know if it's concerted or not.
I think even the one time I was over at your place, I didn't even see the snake. I've seen that tank. I've been in that room that you're in, but I don't even think I saw her when I was over.
She's so chill. Yeah, she's so chill. She just hides most of the time. She's very, very shy.
Unlike your cats who just photobomb and just come right in the show like mine do.
If that door wasn't closed, they'd both be in there right now.
So Joe, how are you today?
I'm doing all right. School has started for me once again. This is going to be a rough moment for me. Because I will be dealing with 2 classes at once. And last week we had a whole issue with this class where the guy thought we were doing it in person when really we paid for it online. So the professor's been slowly changing everything to the online version of this class rather than in person.
That sucks.
So not only has the professor just pissed, we're also pissed because feedback on our assignments, because this is a class that requires you to do one part of a project that we have to turn in by the end of the semester, the class. Each week you do a different part, and then by the end you combine it all. You make your corrections that you have to make, and then you add 2 more sections to it. It's like a really long paper, basically. It's a presentation you would give to like a village board, basically, about economics and stuff. I won't get into specific details, but it's gonna be a rough one because eventually then the last 3 weeks of this class, while I have to deal with that, another class will start, which is why I will be gone eventually on Sleepless for just about 3 weeks, and it'll just be these 2 guys here. So you're actually getting a preview, actually, of what it will look like come later June. So, yeah, other than that, though, I can't wait for Memorial Day weekend. I am in desperate need of a day off. I don't get my vacation days until 6 months into my job. I'm currently at 5, and I've been itching for a day off, and Memorial Day weekend couldn't come any sooner. I think I might go rewatch Top Gun Maverick as just a little fun thing to do over the weekend while I eat burgers and hot dogs and whatnot.
I like the sound of that. I don't like the sound of that project, but I do like the sound of your Memorial Day weekend plans.
Yeah.
We should get into this not only because it's a big movie and I guarantee we're going to have some thoughts on it, but also the fact that I would like to see my compadre over here. But Fast X is the movie that we are reviewing today. It's the 10th installment, 11th technically, if you count Hobbs and Shaw, I'm pretty sure. 10th installment of Fast and the Furious franchise. One of us was chomping at the bit to watch this movie, I'll say that much. But contrary to maybe any belief, I will dispel, because I did get actually some message or two about this. Contrary to popular belief, I don't consider myself to be a hater of this series. I've not been I wouldn't color myself as a fan, but I've approached each installment at least with a level head and a desire to be entertained, if on a superficial blockbuster level for the most part. Up until recently, I liked Furious 7 a lot. I think it's kind of hard not to like that movie if you've already made it that far. And just everything that was swirling with that movie with Paul Walker's death and how they handled it eventually with the film and the ending, obviously. And I even liked Fate of the Furious. And Fate of the Furious, I've come to realize, is more divisive than I initially thought. So I wasn't a big fan of F9. Probably the best thing I can say about F9, aside from John Cena's performance in that movie, is the fact that we all saw it together. Shout out to Joe, renting a theater for us all to watch F9. That stands as one of my, truthfully, for a movie that I'm not very high on, that stands as a top 5 movie going experience for me.
Awesome.
It truly does. That was pretty fun. I would not have gotten, that might have been 1.5 stars if I had to see that alone. So So no, that was a treat of experience, especially coming out of the pandemic too. It was also the time, I was still newly back at the movies at that time in early 2021. So that was an incredible experience. It was pretty much the exact opposite of this movie, which Fast X still should be called Fast 10 Your Seatbelts as far as I'm concerned. This is the movie that puts us on the end of the road for the series that's predicated on muscle cars and pretzel logic. And I don't know now if it's supposed to officially be a part 1 of 3 or part 1 of 2. It was initially supposed to just be 2 parts for the finale, but then Vin Diesel said there could be or would be a third one, so it's a little hazy now. And honestly, with how expensive this thing is, I don't know if this thing is really going to make the money or the profit they thought. But moreover, either way, if we do wind up getting Fast and the Furious 12, it's a dangerous proposition because I think this series is really starting to run on fumes with this one. I'm anxious to hear how both of you felt, seeing as Joe, for lack of a better term, embargoed his own review of this thing on Letterboxd. That was a great. Dom's just glad he doesn't have a Letterboxd account. But there is quite a bit to get into with this movie, and at least on my end, not a lot that is particularly good. With that, we'll keep Joe's suspense coming. I'll pass it over to you, Dom.
So, in the first Cars movie starring Owen Wilson, right? When in the opening race, when, he wants to keep going and his crew is saying, hold on, you're short, your tires are going to blow, dude. You need to stop, you need to go to the pit stop. You need to get some fuel, fresh fuel, and we need to replace your tires. But then he doesn't. And then he learns his lesson that, I'm going to, my tires are blown. I'm out of fuel and I'm screwed. I'm going to lose this race. That is, I don't know how many movies ago we were there, but we are here now. Fast X, my God, this is probably the best movie I have taken a nap to since Jurassic World Dominion. I fell asleep.
Did you really? Props to you for admitting it.
I fell asleep. And I wasn't like tired. I was like, oh, it's such a rough day. I've only got like 4 hours of sleep. No, I had like a good amount of sleep that night, the night before. And same with Jurassic World Dominion. Just something about that level of blockbuster that does not care, or at least doesn't care in the ways that it should care, is astounding to me. There are so many fight scenes that do not interest me. It's astounding. Every single character, which is stuffed to the brim with characters, each trying to have their own line for a hot second.
I'll go through the roster when you're done before we introduce
Oh my
Joe.
God. I don't even know. Each one had to have their own really badass extended fight sequence. And it just went on. It is the kinetic equivalent of listening to that high school teacher go on and on about Robinson Crusoe. It's like, holy crap, you cannot figure out a way to make this different from the rest. Like, I understand, like, on a literal level, they are doing different actions. There are different people doing different moves and different things. I'm really honing on to the fight scenes because it really got to me. But something about that detail in particular was so, like, affected me so much that it actually made me go to sleep. And I straight up missed the ending to this movie. I woke up and I'm like, why is Dom hugging his son? And are they at Yosemite? What's going on here? And then the credits rolled. I'm not joking. That's literally what
How long were you out for, would you say?
I think like a half hour. The last thing I remember, this is a 2 hour and 20 minute movie, right?
Yeah.
Maybe some credits, but still maybe like 20 minutes, right? I don't know. Wow. Yeah. And the thing about Fast and Furious as it exists today, and I'll end my introduction, I guess, with this, is that the this is the new Transformers for me. This is the new Michael Bay Transformers, and it wasn't there before. It wasn't there with the first two movies. It wasn't there with Tokyo Drift. Maybe not even 4 and 5, but it got there, and that is a true Indy 500 turning point in the franchise that will be the point in the franchise that will make everyone go, yeah, how did we get here? If whoever can nail that moment down, that movie, and even that moment down, you can maybe it's Paul Walker's death. Maybe it's when they introduced The Rock. I don't know.
I can opine it was when it really got to like the Michael Bay level of like idiocy in a way. They flirted with it, I say, in like Furious 7, probably with the skyscraper jump. That was probably when they really started. Like Fast 5 was the pivotal turning point, was the heel turn for the series and making it more, more of a spectacle and everything like that. But I feel like it was like the Furious 7 skyscraper, and then by the time they went to fucking space by F9, that was really confirmed that this thing wasn't even on the same planet literally anymore.
Oh yeah, that's where I am, dude. This was a time. Great nap.
All right, Joe, that leaves you for your thoughts on Fast X, the biggest Fast and the Furious fan I know, and easily the biggest of the three of us.
What the hell?
Oh, good day, gentlemen. I didn't realize you were here. Good day. I was just catching up on my local economic development text readings back there and pursuing, how we could further develop our economics for the economy, of course. Yes, indeed. While enjoying a nice glass of scotch right here. Definitely not Diet Pepsi. Yes. This weekend, I don't know about you lads, I went to the theater to go see
My God, he's doing a bit. He's doing the bit.
A glorious motion picture known as Fast X. Not Fast and Furious 10, not Furious 10, not Fast 10, Fast X. And as you know, I am a connoisseur of the Fast and Furious franchise. And, I was going through this book that I have that, has director notes about the franchise. Here we are, back in 2001, once again. Dominic Toretto, Brian O'Connor, everybody. Oh, look at that, the sequel. With just Brian O'Connor. And we can keep on going and going and going. Ooh, look, The Rock's in this one. Ooh, that's very good. That's very good. Up until Fate, this only goes up to the 8th one. The 9th one's back there in my DVD rack. But, I was going back through there and reminiscing of the times of this franchise and where it's gone all this time. I look at it and I think about how we had street racing, and then it evolved into a heist film with Fast 5. And then it became a Mission Impossible film with Fast and Furious 6. And then it became almost a superhero film with Furious 7. And then a spy espionage film with Fate of the Furious. I don't even know what that title was. So much so, they changed that title so much that with the last one, it was just called F9. And we went to space. And it really showed the evolution that this franchise went through, that it just wanted to be bigger and bigger and bigger. And to have the gall to just look at the audience and say, we are doing this. We don't care. I've always admired the Fast and Furious franchise for that. Except for Fast and Furious 9. That is the one that made me go, hold on a minute. Maybe this is going too far. So as we were approaching Fast X, I was a little concerned. Because, the screening we did for that movie, where I hosted it, that is because, I'm a big fan of these are the action movies I grew up with. My uncles would take me to they used to be the manager at an AMC theater that I still go to this day. They were both two managers there. And they used to take me from the first 4 films. I used to go at midnight with them before they started doing midnight screenings to, the public. And we would just have the theater to ourselves, and I would watch these movies with them. So this franchise has always held a special place in my heart. And then with Fast 5, of course, I love the direction it took. I know a lot of people, this is like the splitting point. This is literally the analogy of you're either Paul Walker and you're going away from the franchise like you are in Furious 7, or you're Dominic Toretto. You're sticking on this road. I loved what they did with it. It is, at the time, a lot of people have looked at it as a betrayal of what this franchise used to be. Because for God's sakes, they do get to a race in that movie, and they don't even show you the race. It's like, they get to the race, and Dom's like, your car for my car. And they're like, all right, bet. And then, like, it just cuts to the next scene, and they're driving in with the dude's car they just won against. And it was at that moment, like, people just kind of realize, okay, this is becoming something else. You're either with it or you're not. Looking back on it now, like, if you ever rewatch this movie, it is the turning point, as Steve is saying. It's not the turning point to what you were saying earlier, Dom. If I had to say that, I think it is 9 or even 8. Maybe the end of 7, by, like, the end of that movie, maybe, like, everybody was, like, there because, what happened with Paul Walker and everything. But, like, that movie does go quite the distance. And I like 8, but 8 even gets a little ridiculous where they're racing a submarine and pushing torpedoes out of the way and blocking a nuclear blast with their cars. It goes on and on to say, like, how crazy this franchise has gotten. But with that being said, we have reached Fast X, and going off of what these guys have said, I completely understand what they're saying, and I completely see it. But just like Stephen A. Smith just said in a broadcast one day, we don't care. We don't care. This, to me, it is definitely everything these guys are going to bring up later in this review, and they brought up before I even got on. It is definitely that. I just think this movie kind of reels it back almost to the craziness that 8 had and 7 had. And here's the thing. The issue I had with 9 is 9 got really stupid. I mean, they went to space and everything. And it's almost like that's the best part of the movie just because of how ridiculous it is. But, like, when you really think about it, it's like, wow, they actually really did that. Okay. It's also, throughout that whole movie, it's 2 hours and 45 minutes. It's a really long movie. And most of the dialogue in that movie, it's terrible. I mean, dialogue in this movie is not any better, too. Don't get me wrong. But the entire time in 9, it's them kind of just go like, man, we're basically superheroes. Like, literally saying that. They make that joke about, like, 6 times in the movie. And, like, yeah, dialogue in this movie sucks and everything.
Yeah, they do.
And it's not, like, there's a scene like that in Fast X where some guy literally goes through the whole franchise. And I get it. We're nearing the end of this road, finally, with this franchise. But it kind of puts. I actually thought it did a funny thing, putting things in perspective. How, like, oh yeah, literally every, like, law enforcement person they actually, like, worked or were going against turned out to help them in some sort of way, which I thought was funny to look back on. And there's just a lot of, like, fun moments in this movie. Like, if you've been keeping up with them up until this point, they go back to locations, they go back to everything. There's a lot of fan service here. It is, like, almost a love letter to the fans who have been loving Fast and Furious, especially Fast and Furious being ridiculously over the top as it is now.
They're rewarded with Rita Moreno.
Yeah. As Dom's mother for a 10-second cameo, practically. It's insanely stupid. It's insanely dumb. But it's like, if you've been enjoying a lot of what they were doing in the later films with how ridiculous they were getting, you'll kind of feel more at home with this one, I think, than you will with 9, because I just didn't like 9. I was kind of disappointed with it. And with this, it's not like, do I think it's better than 5, 6, 7, where people would consider that, like, when it did turn, like, kind of like that golden, like, age of, like, Fast and Furious movies that got ridiculous? No, I think it's, like, about as par as what I thought where 8 was at, where I think it's fun and everything that this franchise has become. Like, that being said, that doesn't, like, excuse some things that happen in this movie. Like Vin Diesel's performance, it is so bad, like,
awful.
Like as much as I love the character Dominic Toretto in the first Fast and Furious movie, and even in some later sequels as well, like Fate of the Furious. To give him credit, he at least tried to perform in that movie because he actually had to, like, do something. He was under, like, the character itself was under a lot of pressure and stuff. Being, like, basically having his family held at gunpoint, his actual real family, not this, extended family of, oh, you were a bad guy in the last film and now you're family. Like, legit his own son and everything. Brian is what he names him. He actually had, like, to act, but ever since, like, 8 ended, it's like 9 in this one does not give a shit about this character at all anymore. And it really sucks to, go back and when you watch that first film, how charismatic Dominic Toretto actually really is in that first film.
People forget.
Yeah,
People forget how charismatic he was in the early movies.
Yeah, it really sucks. We don't, and I thought like with 8, it's like, oh, they're gonna actually like do stuff with Dom still. Like that's actually really cool. And it's just like, no, with 9 in this film, Dom is the least interesting character, and I don't care about him. I'll pass it off to you guys. But the saving grace about Dominic's storyline, and I only know this, and Steve will agree with this, is not only do we have the best performance in the movie with him, going alongside him, I should say, we have the best villain of this whole franchise going against him, and that is Jason Momoa's Dante, who I think is amazing throughout this movie. I'll leave it off at that. I'll pass it off to these guys because I was gushing about, stupid shit and everything.
I'm glad we're in agreement at least about one thing, and that Jason Momoa is the singular best villain of this series. The singular best villain. And it sucks, in my opinion, he's in the worst movie of the series.
Absolutely, yeah.
Because he is phenomenal in this. He totally understood the assignment. I feel like he's the only person here who understood the assignment. He's also responsible, and I will not give any context, he's also responsible for the only laugh I got out of this movie. The one laugh, Dom, you might have been asleep.
Was it the manicure?
No.
No.
Funny,
No, it goes down as probably one of my top 5 favorite quotes of the year. You might have been asleep, but it's without the context. Jason Momoa tells Brian, Dom's son, looks like Uncle Muscles is going to miss the next family barbecue.
That's a funny line out of context.
I lost it. That was some funny shit. And Momoa's delivery, his like dastardly prancing throughout this thing. I mean, he's great. He is drop dead brilliant at some moments of this thing. Now, there are many problems with this thing that I could list right off the bat, but like, this is the title, what am I trying to say? Tagline of this movie is "The End of the Road Begins."
Yeah. Because
this is supposed to at least be the finale for this series. It'll be rebooted in 5 years. Don't start crying. But this is supposed to be the finale, the start to the finale of this series. And every time Vin Diesel's on screen, his eyes are almost welling because it's family this, it's legacy that. It's
no more paychecks. No more $15 million guaranteed paychecks every 2 years.
Exactly. He's got reason to tear up. But no, it's this like somber, melancholic, sort of reflective legacy leaving idea, coupled with the fact that the family has like split up and they're all over the globe. There's 4 narrative plot threads happening all at once in this movie. And then you have the silliest fucking villain of the whole series. Like, it's all this, like, somber, melancholic background, and then you got Jason Momoa saying stuff like that.
Yeah.
And
like,
it doesn't mesh.
Actually, the Vatican. Let's just go blow up the Vatican. Like, what?
He indirectly, the plan indirectly was, let me kill the Pope. That was the plan. Mm-hmm. That was effectively the plan.
In the first, like, half an hour. This movie's got so many problems, I completely ignored that. And I would say the other thing that I don't understand.
This movie is so effing, I'm interrupting you. This movie is so effing great when you just think about it. Watching it, boring as shit. When you think about it, it is the best movie of all time. And that explains the fan. Sorry, go ahead.
Yo, you're fine. You almost got to talk it out. You almost got to talk it out in order to get this. Here's the thing I don't understand, because we all saw F9 together.
Yeah.
We all saw F9 together. Here's the thing that I don't understand. How the hell did Jacob, the John Cena character, how did John Cena go from being the villainous, estranged brother of Vin Diesel, the villain of F9, to the uncle that wears like "I farted" t-shirts and plays Good Vibrations in his car? Because... And Dom trusts him with Brian. I felt like I missed the installment. When the hell did he become like best friends with his own brother?
Well, you see, in the next movie, when they introduce a second villain by digitally inserting Chris Pratt into that scene. Oh my God.
I hate to tell you, the next movie is going to be the first official movie written by AI. But anyway, resident expert Fast and Furious Joe over here. Did I miss something? I know they kind of reconciled partially at the end of
That's
F9.
your critique? That's your critique?
No, it's an endemic problem with this movie of the characterization, which I'll expound upon later. But anyway,
what were you asking me to explain? Sorry.
How the hell is Jacob the way he is now? Do you have a justification for this?
So
like I was baffled.
do if you accept family as the answer. But there's, I mean, that's always been a thing with this movie, these movies though. Like Hobbs was a guy that was like, I'm gonna fucking kill Dominic Toretto. I'm gonna bring him in. Hey Dom, I need you to do a mission for me and be my best friend. Jason Statham, I'm gonna kill you for killing my brother, putting him in the hospital. All right, like,
Cypher?
I roll with the family now. Cypher, for God's sakes,
just walks to the front. Dom, like, literally should have murked her. Should have literally domed her immediately on the spot.
For real.
But she just walks up and they actually have a conversation. Even though, like, in the plot, they explain it by saying, "You need me." No, you don't.
There was nothing they needed.
No, Charlize, you need a paycheck.
So like, unless if like the reason why you need me because I have someone connected to your past, which I won't spoil for anybody. Which is a whole other fucking thing. But like, it literally, it's just been a thing about this franchise. They put that is literally the excuse. Whereas like Hobbs had an excuse. His team that went with him to go arrest Dom was betrayed by the Brazilian overlord that you see die at the beginning of this film, because Dante is the Fast Five's villain's son. I forgot what his name was, but if you've seen Missing, he's the best character in that movie. But like, and even after that, like Luke Evans, like he joins the family even though they put him in the hospital and everything. Jason Statham joins the family even though he had his brother be put in the hospital, but like hey, he had to work with them in order to get like a shorter term on his sentence because Dominic Toretto went rogue for some reason. They had to go find out why in the 8th installment. But with this one, it's just like, we don't need to explain. Look, he's just brother, so like that's cool. But it's like, dude, like the guy literally like nearly killed the whole, like all of them, and also killed innocent people. And he's over here, and it's like, look, I had a fun, like, and here's the thing, I had a fun time with John Cena's like whole storyline with little Brian throughout this movie because it was basically Uncle Peacemaker the entire time, and I found that to be really fun. But it does not make any fucking sense. I won't defend it. Like every time like someone talks to me about any of these movies and they bring up legitimate criticism, it's like, look, I'm not gonna defend it, but I will explain to you why I enjoy it because sometimes not giving a damn for this franchise pays off. Fate of the Furious 7, and sometimes it doesn't. And Fast X kind of has both of those like going on at once with all the plot lines that this movie like throws at you. The family is too big, and it sucks to say, but at the end of this movie, it gets even bigger.
Dom said when I brought that up about John Cena, he's like, "That's your critique," but no, it's part of one of the problems I think is endemic to this movie the most, and it's that the characterization of the people, the individuals in this movie to me feel so off for some reason.
Is it Flandersization where they have so little screen time they need to be the most over the top them? Is that it?
That's a good thing. That's honestly a bit more of a justification.
Do you disagree? Hold on, Joe. Do you disagree?
No,
that's at least a.
I want to add to that. I just think this movie is just, it looks at everybody and it's like, just play into your strengths. You don't really have a script to go off of, but just play with your strengths, because the script in this movie sucks. All right, I won't defend that. It's everybody playing their strength. What's John Cena's strength? Well, he played Peacemaker recently. What's Tyrese Gibson and Ludacris' strength? Oh, they constantly bump with each other and everything, and it's just like,
guys, Fast X is so pro-union. The writers were on strike long before the WGA called it.
No, I think you're onto something though, Don, because of the fact that there's like 3 or 4 narrative plot threads happening at once, and the characters have to split up. The reduced screen time of everybody results in them becoming like their most simplistic character trait. Like, here's the thing: John Cena, his character was weirdly drawn here, and it didn't make sense compared to F9. I had no problem with John Cena as a performance. I actually think John Cena is one of the more charismatic individuals of this series.
Absolutely.
since the last one. I honestly do. But Michelle Rodriguez, Letty doesn't have much of a presence in this thing. You know who was absolutely irritating as hell, beyond Vin Diesel's constant brooding and martyrism over here? You know who I was shockingly annoyed by was Tyrese as Roman.
Yeah.
I was shockingly irritated by him. And I love Tyrese's music and as an actor. And I've liked him in this series throughout. But what the hell? And one of the worst scenes in this whole series, and it's saying a lot, one of the worst scenes in this whole series is that fist fight between him and Tej Ludacris.
Yeah, that internet cafe scene, that shit sucked.
Awful.
Yeah.
Pete Davidson wasn't bad. When Pete Davidson was the best thing to happen in the worst scene of Fast and the Furious as a series, that ought to tell you something, because that scene was terrible, downright terrible.
He ate a weed muffin and then they didn't address it. Like, he was totally fine the next scene.
Oh, yeah, Han. Oh, and he's died and come back to life 30 fucking times by now.
They've done that. So how many retcons has this movie had? At least 3.
Let's see.
Right?
Letty, Han, somebody at the end of this movie. At least 3.
The villain, Momoa.
Momoa, Statham. I mean,
that's such a bad retcon.
When did we know?
Momoa.
When did we know that Dom had a brother? Never.
9.
Until 9. So they're just consistently forcing, pretending, faking some long-standing familial history.
Literally, Dom
and
having a
depth
son too. So that's another one.
Yeah, they had to call up poor Cody Walker to resurrect his brother to recreate the scene in Fast 5, and it's like, how did I miss Jason Momoa right there the whole time?
They just didn't use archive footage. They actually had to recreate that
because of the close-ups, and he does speak a line of dialogue in it. They had to digitally alter his face. Wow, okay. They actually used Cody Walker as a stand-in.
That's okay if they bring him in as that's whatever. Well, I don't care if they bring him in as a full-fledged character.
Yeah, and Walker's estate signed off on it. We're gonna have to take an intermission here real quick. We'll be back in about 60 to 90 seconds with more commentary on Fast X. Don't go anywhere. We are back from our Zoom-sponsored intermission. It is Sleepless with Steve, live on this Wednesday evening, live and in living color, talking Fast X. Don't forget we do have a news topic here, so probably give it 10 more minutes on this one, even though we could probably continue for much longer on that. I love the passion that this series brings out one way or another between us. But no, I was saying, though, that you have so many individuals in this movie. You've got obviously the big ones: Vin Diesel, Michelle Rodriguez, Tyrese Gibson, Ludacris, John Cena, Nathalia Emmanuel, Jordana Brewster, Sung Kang, who has, I will say, one other positive about this movie. God, I love Han's hair in this movie.
Hans always looked awesome, man, with his hair.
He's got the flow going, man.
The most believable thing in this movie was him getting instantaneous hits on his dating profile, which, for the record, does not come back at all.
No.
In any kind of capacity. I thought something like some of these early setups, what a fool I was. But regardless, he is hot.
He was so good looking in this movie that he motivated me because I've never seen it. He did motivate me. Dom, I don't know if you know this. Joe, you surely know this. Sung Kang was so handsome in this movie. He actually motivated me. I want to go watch Justin Lin's directorial debut, Better Luck Tomorrow.
I was reading about that
because that's where Han originated from, and then he was after Tokyo Drift,
another
or after the fifth movie, after the fifth, and then into the sixth one too. When Lin took over as the director, he incorporated Sung Kang back into the movie as Han and like retrofitted that character from Better Luck Tomorrow, which is honestly like I feel like it's under discussed. That like how subtle and crafty that was. But
they've retconned so many times. They retconned a whole other ass movie to be in this. It literally annexed like a country annexed another movie. Oh my god.
At least it was Justin Lin consensually doing it. It was his idea. But yeah, there is like Pete Davidson, people bag on him relentlessly. And I'm not saying the guy's an A-list actor or he can even carry a movie. But the thing about Pete Davidson, when he shows up in that internet cafe scene, like I've been known on this very show to defend Pete Davidson pretty often. King of Staten Island, bodies, bodies, bodies. Like I defend him here because he is what he is best. And you know what the ultimately though is, after just critiquing the characterization of this thing, he at least has some personality, and that's what's lacking amongst everybody here except for Jason Momoa, who to his credit is in it a lot and gives you a lot to chew on and is presumably going to be the primary villain in Fast 11 when we get it.
And thank God for that, because honestly I want him to be the villain for the rest of these movies because he's a great villain, but like if he's incorporated to the family, then that means like that's less screen time we get of him because they'll probably give him to another side plot that's going on in Fast 11 or something. I want to be the villain because he's honestly, like we were saying, the best villain we had in this franchise, and he's a ton of fun to see just be maniacally evil, not have a purpose, just literally being like, hey man, as long as Dominic Toretto is still breathing, I will kill as many innocent people as I need to, like just to mess with him.
I hate to say it too, but I also think this movie suffers greatly because of the fact that Justin Lin walked out on it.
Yeah.
I think this movie suffers greatly because here's the thing. I never like to disrespect directors, and Louis Leterrier has made a very good career for himself. But Louis Leterrier is like a gun for hire director. Like, he did The Incredible Hulk. He did Transporter 2. He did Clash of the Titans, The Brothers Grimsby with Sacha Baron Cohen. Now You See Me. He's really been all over the place.
Yeah.
As far as like like I said, his first movie that he directed was Unleashed with Jet Li and Morgan Freeman, and that obviously was like good enough to entrust him then with the Transporter 2 franchise. He's an action director, and he came in. It's hard enough when a director gets fired. It's even harder when they're like halfway through the production, and then you got to come in and salvage this thing. So he had an uphill battle, and Lin's fingerprints are still on the script and story.
Yeah.
But man, there is something also lacking with the action scenes of this movie. Like outside of the climax, and I give it the climax too, outside of the dam scene, outside of the race in the Charger down the dam, there is no real other action sequence that outdoes what came before it, or recall something like, I don't know, first one that comes to my mind is the Fast and the Furious 6, the tank scene. There's nothing here that outdoes it in terms of action. What say you on that, Joe?
I liked the Rome scene. I thought that was fun. It's not here's the thing. I think the idea of it and just like the energy that's going on in the Rome scene is done really well. Like it was like, okay, this is actually kind of cool. Like, it's a ball, literally they're playing Rocket League with this damn thing and hitting it around like a soccer ball and everything. There's some cool stunt work with Michelle Rodriguez's character on the motorcycle and everything, where she's chasing Dante throughout the streets, and everything. But like the guy, like even though he's an action director, and this is the issue I've always had with his action films, he does not know how to shoot action, like at all. There's like, and even though he didn't even choreograph this fight, or even he wasn't even on the day they shot this action scene, they decided to do it without him because he was like running late or something.
That's a good shot that's a good shot when the executives feel comfortable doing the scene without the director.
Yeah.
That gives you I didn't know that. That tells me a little more of what I need to know.
It's the scene where Cypher and Michelle and Letty fight. That is the scene he was not there to film. Michelle
Okay.
Rodriguez ended up like, hey, look, like we've been here all day. Let's just get this over with because people were like just waiting around and everything. And she and Charlize Theron
Wow.
choreographed the fight themselves. Like I don't know where he was, but you can read an article about it online and everything.
If
Say,
there
what
is
did they
ever
do?
a
Give it to the
6-part,
cinematographer? Damn.
if there is ever a 6-part documentary on the Fast and Furious franchise, I will watch that. I will absolutely watch that.
I would watch clips Joe sends me.
There you go. But like I like the opening sequence and I like the last chase scene on the highway. Like that whole thing is really cool, honestly. I had a lot of fun with that. And it has like the extreme goofiness of like Dom literally pulling down 2 helicopters with cables and using them to like swing around and hit other cars. It's like, okay, this is what I came to see. But even then, it's not shot the best. Like it's shot terribly. Like the fucking the street race in this movie it's pretty boring. Like it's like it's a cool idea. He's got to choose between 2 people to save, and one of them will die. I like that. It's just not shot like intense at all. Like there's no.
How does he save them? How did he save them?
He crashes into them. Like he crashes into everything in this franchise, dude. That's the way he does it. He mathematically knows where to hit.
Is he like Captain America, like the shield, like
exactly.
and instantly knows how it's going to boomerang back?
I said since like the 7th movie, he's like these are essentially Marvel superheroes, and that's the other thing too with this is that like now Joe, I completely absolve you from this because I understand your personal connection to this series and stuff. I don't judge anybody who gets emotionally involved in these movies. Believe me, I've gotten emotionally involved about way more questionable movies in my day, but I am the person that cried to Clerks 3 separate times,
as well, like,
and Tremors as well. So I cannot judge anybody. Believe you me, I can only give you my thoughts here. But like taking the gravity and like the gusto, I think, out of seeing the deaths or alleged deaths of certain characters is the fact that, like Han, multiple people in this series have come back and have found convoluted ways to justify still being alive, or justify a complete personality change like Jacob. So like these have become Marvel movies, and they're inconsequent. They've become inconsequential in that regard too, to the point where I don't even think these movies can do pathos very effectively.
But you know what?
Go ahead, Dom. Go ahead.
Avengers or Endgame, that's a movie where it does swap between sets of characters. And that's entertaining the whole way through. It's like, oh, just as I'm getting bored with this group, I'm having fun with this group now. It's like they cracked the code, like distilled it down to a perfect chemistry, at least up until Endgame.
And pacing too.
Well,
yeah,
I mean,
exactly.
Like, you even look at it like Infinity War and Endgame. It's like again pacing and everything. Endgame, like like as Dom is saying, it just perfectly knows like, hey, we're gonna set this amount of time, and they actually do something. The whole plot line with Roman, Tej, Han, and what's her name, Ramsey. What do they do that entire plot? They're walking. That's all they do that entire storyline.
It's true.
They really don't do anything. In Endgame, everybody has a goal: get 1 Infinity Stone, and it's a lot of fun while they're getting it. It's a heist film, and I look back at Fast 5. It's literally a heist film, and it's a much smaller team compared to the team we have now. And everybody has something to do, and that's what made that film so fun. Is that like
the story exists for the characters, not the other way around.
Exactly,
and it's so telling.
Where it's like, those characters had nothing to do. Michelle Rodriguez is barely in this movie. That sucks because Letty has always been one of my favorite characters throughout this whole franchise.
I was disappointed by that too. The lack of Letty in this movie really stings.
Because if there's anybody like, while Vin Diesel might be phoning it in like with that last film and this one, Rodriguez is still giving her all as a badass as Letty. And
them two were always great together. I won't deny that. Them two were always good together, and Letty was like, it felt like really recently too. Letty was starting to branch out and craft her own identity, and she just like, she is nothing here. She is like almost thin air.
It really sucks too because like, I love that Han's back, but the way he was brought back was bullshit, and like, they barely even use him in this film too, and who knows what they're gonna do with the next character that they're bringing back. 2 of them actually, if you stay for the credits. But what was I gonna say? Oh, when they brought back Letty in 6, they actually did stuff with her, and it continued in 7. Like, her not like, actually like, having like a chunk of her memory being gone because she was shot. and like, you know, had like brain damage and everything. They actually did stuff with her, and like, you know, again, I know Dom's laughing, but like, dude,
No,
this is like
even
soap
I
opera
just
level like drama for like Fast and Furious.
I love how this woman, even in a big blockbuster American franchise, she cannot escape some telenovela bullshit plot lines. It's like, yeah, shot in the head, lost her memory, comes back, sees her lover. It's like she can't escape the telenovela stuff where she started it.
Like, and that was my favorite parts of 6 and 7 storyline was like Letty's back, and like her character growth in that film is getting back. Like at the end of 6, it's accepting that like, yeah, I actually like, you know, that is my family, I need to go back with them. And in 7, it's her like, you know, overcoming like, you know, what she's done in the past during the events of 6 and before, like, you know, she like was hanging out with Luke Evans's like crowd and everything. You know, they were doing stuff with these characters. In this installment, as much fun as I had, it makes me worry that like, dude, what the hell do you even have planned for this next one? Because half the characters in this movie were all in one plot line, and they didn't do shit, and you didn't give them shit to do. Like Tyrese Gibson, I agree with Steve. He's like one of my favorite parts about all these movies, man. And I noticed too, I had to go look. I'm like, man, something's just off here. Chris Morgan, who's written like almost all of these movies, and has provided like, you know, some good script doctor work when it comes to the comedy with like, especially Roman and Tej. He's not involved in this film at all. I'm sorry. He's involved as a producer. He didn't write anything in this movie. And honestly, I felt that while watching it. It's like, man, at least with that last film, Roman and Tej at least had some banter that was keeping me going. There was some funny stuff there. This one, none of that.
Now, Roman and Tej are really insufferable here.
Yeah.
Like, they really are. And it's not really a fault of performances. It's a fault of, like, just piss poor writing.
Exactly. And I hate to make this comparison, but it reminds me, because Don brought up Transformers, it reminds me of Mudflaps and Gibbs from Transformers 2 at times. I was like, dude, this needs to stop. This is kind of embarrassing to watch them at points.
Let's get into final star ratings here, because I do want to spend just a tiny bit of time at least addressing the fact that HBO Max is now half of what it was, literally. But moreover, for final thoughts on this one, yeah, I really hope there's only one more part after this. I said my piece with Fast X. 1.5 out of 4 stars for me. I am really glad that we did get the best villain of the series in this thing. Momoa was outstanding, and because of that, watch, he'll probably get nominated for a Razzie unjustifiably.
Right, yeah.
But he was so good here, and like I feel like everybody's lacking energy was just usurped by Momoa, and he turned it into a positive with this thing, because he really is the reason to watch this thing, and he was really one of the few reasons that I was still engaged with this thing, even though it is shorter than I thought it was going into it. So it's 1.5 out of 4 for me. We'll go Dom then Joe to send us home mercifully on Fast X.
Fast and Furious is a quintessentially American movie. Bunch of Americans kick down the door of some random ass country and think they can solve the world's problems literally with cars. They literally saved the Pope from being assassinated by ramming a bomb with cars. That's literally what happens in this movie. But even bisexual Jason Momoa can't save it. As much as I did legitimately enjoy that as well. And if he comes back, I hope so, because something's got to keep me awake for at least most of this movie. 1 out of 4 stars. The mundaneness and the boringness. It's like doing heroin 3 times a day consistently. It's like at some point you're just here, right? There's no up and down anymore, right? You can have some fun when you're up here, and then some downer parts, and it gets sad, and you get sad for a while, but then you come back up. No, it's just consistently right here. Too much. You gotta pull it back. 1 out of 4 stars. Cars was better.
Joe, send us home.
I'll make it quick so we can get to the next topic. Look, I'm a fan of this franchise. I had a lot of fun with this movie. As a fan, this was what I wanted the start of the finale to be. And even though I have some criticism as a fan and a critic here, I still enjoyed it. I'm not even gonna, like, as a fan rating, I'm not even gonna give that. All right, it's Fast and Furious. I liked it. That's all I'm just gonna say. As a critic, I'm really like, you know, it's like I gotta really separate myself. It's probably too. What's up?
I was gonna say, forget. Just give it. What would you give it on Letterboxd?
What would I get? Oh, I'll give it on Letterboxd. I'd give it 3 stars, man. On here though, it's a 2. If I had to be like a real critic and actually like think about like, okay, what did I actually enjoy, pull away, and everything, it's 2 out of 4 stars for me. In terms of just like actually using the normal scale. On Letterboxd, like my own personal thing, I'm probably gonna give it 3. I doubt 3.5, but 3.
Got it. Now that you have an
Out of
account,
4?
I can ask you.
Letterboxd is out of 5, and they use half stars as well.
Yeah, I'll be bringing up this movie again come January on this show, and that's all I will say. That is all I will say on that one. If I don't, then man, this has been a rough year in parts. But let's move forward. We're going to bleed into Sleepless OT, but we can't not mention this. We can't not mention the fact that had to update a certain Roku app yesterday when I turned on my Roku TV over here. I had to hit that star button I don't normally hit on my remote very much, and then update channels. And it took longer because usually channels update themselves. I don't know about you guys. I had to hard update this.
I didn't even update. I had to download a whole new ass app.
Did you really?
Yeah.
I just clicked on HBO. I did the star click on HBO Max. I clicked the star button, and then I hit update channels, and then it took about a whole like minute and a half. And then boom, now it's blue instead of purple. All these streaming services are blue now. So HBO Max has officially become Max, and my tagline is HBO Max is now Max. It's now half of what it once was. Not according to the numbers, however, though. This has been a long time coming. This was rumored about last year, and it was announced formally about a month and a half ago by Warner Brothers Discovery. This is the end result of Warner Brothers and Discovery merging to become Warner Brothers Discovery, or WBD. Now there's more than twice the content on HBO Max than there was. I saw this on Variety. 35,000 plus hours of programming. That is more than double. HBO Max was like at 15,000, I think. This is more than double what was on HBO Max 2 days ago, now Max. There's hundreds of shows added now from HDTV, TLC, Discovery Channel, obviously, Food Network. So now you can go from watching Curb Your Enthusiasm to Say Yes to the Dress to The Wire to Deadliest Catch, all under one app. And the one thing I'm interested about actually using, because I haven't watched anything on Max yet since the relaunch, but the one thing I'm interested in is that they did use a newly rebuilt code base for the video streaming in the video player. So it said that there's supposed to be a more stable performance and playback experience. Now, of all the streaming services I've had the fewest issues with HBO Max. I've had like the fewest I feel like is HBO. Netflix is a pain in the ass. I don't know about for you guys. Netflix has gotten to be kind of cumbersome for me recently.
With HBO like finding something or playing something?
Playing something.
Oh, okay.
Or like rewinding or fast forwarding.
I'll give you rewinding and fast forwarding. I still think Netflix, in terms of like selecting stuff, has the best way to like browse a catalog.
No, this has nothing to do with interface.
Okay.
This has strictly to do with video playback.
Okay. Yeah, then I agree.
No, Netflix's interface is fine. It is totally fine in my opinion. It's the playback, and that seems to be what they've kind of modified here. The thing that caught me, and if you could flash this on the screen, Joe, the tweet I sent you from earlier, man, this stuck in my craw this morning. I woke up, first thing I saw on Twitter, pissed me off in a bad way. Apparently, it's been rectified, but I saw this tweet this morning about how people perusing through the library of Max now, how if you go down to like the about section of movies or shows now, I guess it's been fixed now. I haven't checked for myself, but it did not list the writers or directors of the movies.
Yeah.
It listed just a barrage of people as creators. I guess they lumped in writers, directors, and producers. I think that's what they did, at least judging from Raging Bull, which is the example on the tweet. I think they lumped producers, writers, and directors all into one and called them creators. And it took me a minute. Granted, I saw this at 5:45 in the morning. It took me a minute, but I thought about it, and I'm like, these rat bastards, it makes perfect sense. I said, Zaslav comes from Discovery. Zaslav's now running Warner. Like, a lot of their shows, if you think about it, a lot of their shows are reality shows. Yeah. They don't have conventional writers. Directors are pedestrian guns for hire. It's really about who's the creator. Think of sitcoms too. Created by is the first credit that
Dan
pops
Schneider.
up when the show is over. Chuck Lorre. Like, it's the first credit that pops up at the end of the show. So yeah, it makes sense in a way, in a bad way, that they would highlight creators and specify them over writers and directors. Now, people are doing reviews on Max now and stuff. You really can't. It's going to take about a year before you see any substantial real changes. Let's see the projects they greenlight. Let's see what they prioritize. I, for one, am not optimistic from all that we've been talking about this and all that I've personally read about this, and just that I think Zaslav is not a very good human being to begin with. So I don't have much faith. The last thing I'll point, though, is I think it's hilarious, though. I'll throw it over to Joe and then you, Dom, to send us home on this. But I also think it's hilarious. They called it probably the most meaningless, nothing insignificant name they could have. Like, I get in a bad, like, of course, there's no HBO now attached to this because, like, they don't want to dilute the HBO brand. They know. They don't want to dilute the HBO brand by having it to be the home of Deadliest Catch and Naked and Afraid. I understand that. But the fact that Warner Brothers has been around for 100+ years and has made an indelible imprint on movies, and they couldn't call this Warner Max or Warner Plus or something like that, that's the shocking thing to me, is they took a name that means nothing to anybody instead of taking the billion-dollar brand and putting it as the face of this thing. That I cannot understand. And then they had the goal to remake the logo and everything like that to look like the most generic fucking thing on the planet with the blue and the like rounded symbol. The rounded white text as well. So, like, I don't have high hopes for this. It really pisses me off even the more I think about it. But those were just some initial impressions. What say you, Joe?
I still think this app will have maybe the best catalog of stuff to watch. Even though that's all due credit before this became Max. It's mostly HBO Max's, like, foundation as an app that, like, laid out, like, hey, what's going to be featured on here. Now we'll see what else they continue to pull off of this thing, because there's been a purge of content lately on a lot of streaming services, so we'll see what happens there. But at face value right now with Max, it's whatever. I haven't really played around too much with it yet. I just downloaded the app yesterday, and I was just kind of going through, like, catalogs of stuff just to see how it looks and everything. I think the interface is, whatever as well. I really don't like a lot of the interfaces for these apps. They mostly all just copy Hulu. Like, Netflix is the only one I'm like, I really like what they do. But what I was gonna say, it's kind of weird that, like, yeah, the name they went with, and I was gonna go off of this. They just called it Max, as Steve was saying, and, like, earlier today there was a tweet out by them. It was a new poster for it, a new advertisement they're putting out. Max, the home of HBO and so much more, and it's like, why the fuck did you take out HBO? And then in your new tagline for a new campaign ad that you're running, you're calling it Max, the home of HBO and so much more. Like, why didn't you just keep HBO Max on there? Or as Steve was saying, if you want to drop the HBO stuff because Discovery's coming over onto here and everything, why not?
I'm telling you, they don't want to dilute the HBO brand. I'm telling you, that's what they know. They know.
It's probably that. It's like they could have called it Warner Max or anything. It's just a really, I look at it as such a weird rebuild branding of an app that all three of us for the longest time considered the best streaming service one. It may not have the best interface that HBO Max had, but in terms of the bang you get for your buck on when HBO Max first launched, it blew me away. I was like, because I remember when Disney Plus launched, and I was like, oh, you get a lot of stuff on here. But how much of this stuff do I really want to rewatch or watch? While, like, HBO Max had, TCM, and it's like, ooh, there's actually a lot of movies I want to watch on there. It had, of course, the HBO catalog. I got to catch up on The Sopranos and rewatch it all before Many Saints of Newark came on. There was just so much stuff on there, including the DC catalog for any superhero nut. I got to watch a lot of the animated movies that people always recommended me because of that app. And it just went on and on. There was just so many different houses to jump into. Because you look at Disney, and Disney's just like, while it's Star Wars, Marvel, and all that, it's just like, but it is very blockbustery on there. Everything's a blockbuster, family friendly on Disney Plus. And the stuff that isn't, well, it's basically gone now. While like HBO Max, like there was so many things to jump into and just kind of have a different experience. Do you want a drama like Succession? Do you want something action packed like Game of Thrones and adventure seeking? Did you want to get a superhero adventure with something in DC? Whatever you wanted, HBO Max had plenty of it. Do you want a comedy series? Like, you know, all that stuff. It just sucks to see, yeah, it's just completely changing its brand now, its layout, its look, and who knows what else will eventually be pulled off of there or won't be added in down the line. Like, while Zaslav might, like, you know, be cool with, you know, some movies being on there, some shows being on there, I wouldn't be surprised if he boots it. It's like, no, if you want to watch this show, you have to pay for HBO exclusively. This is an HBO exclusive show only, where you have to literally watch it on cable, nowhere else or something, or own the DVD. Who knows where this is gonna go, man? I really don't, because, like, you know, the whole thing of like a bunch of digital media is just gone off the face of the earth, unless if you go to 1-2-3 movies, like Steve said, you might not ever see it again.
Yeah, that's a whole other thing that we probably would have touched on had Max not come into play. The fact that Disney and Plus and Hulu are going to merge here soon too, and that's something I feel like nobody's talking about. Disney Plus and Hulu are going to become one before the end of the year, and with that, there's been a lot of stuff getting purged, and you can say most of it sucks. Like, believe me, there's nothing I'm really crying about, but that's not the point. It's the lost media element of this that's really sucks. The thing that I can only imagine that would happen with some stuff that's going to be lost is I can't imagine these studios aren't going to want to make some money off it. I checked today, an American Pickle that was released on HBO Max, the Seth Rogen movie, that it was removed from HBO Max months ago. You can rent that actually on Vudu and YouTube now. You can actually rent it for $3.99, which is better than nothing. I'm glad the movie exists. If there's not going to be a DVD of it, I'm glad the movie can be watched somewhere. And that's ultimately what it is. That's ultimately, it's the access point of it that concerns me, is that I want it to be available to watch somewhere. And somewhere, it doesn't have to be free, but it has to be accessible. That's the whole thing. Moreover, to finally send us home on this topic, though, Dom, your thoughts? Have you gotten to play? You don't have Max anymore, do you?
I don't. My dad gave it up for Paramount Plus just so that the content refreshes. I don't know. Maybe
Paramount Plus is sneaky good, man. I'm telling you, Paramount Plus.
Yo, iCarly season 3, iCarly reboot season 3. I'm here for it, but well, I'm here for Steve's account. But on the thing about digital media and things just going away, streaming is there's a hard rule. Streaming is a convenience. Nothing more at all. If you want to own something, download it to a flash drive, download it to a 1 terabyte plus hard drive that you can easily attach to. I have friends who have their favorite movies, shows, comics, music, whatever, downloaded to a precious hard drive that they own, that they keep in a safe. If you care about it, download it.
And my philosophy is, if it's worth putting on 1 flash drive, it's worth putting on 2.
Yeah, that's I've never said it out loud, but that's absolutely my mentality. Yep. And yeah, streaming is nothing more than a convenience, because that leads to my larger point with Zaslav, with pretty much everyone else running these companies. They truly do not care about the art. They don't care that your favorite superhero was represented in this way. They don't care that this action star was like this on this interview, or
they don't care how long you animated something. It's gone.
They don't care. They truly could. They don't even know that's how little they care.
Nope.
The names of the brands, the franchises are nothing more than numbers to them. It's nothing. I sound very like reductive and whatever, but this is literally the tiny cabal that is a few dozen people that truly run the movie industry at the highest levels.
They call it content for a reason.
Right, exactly. The people that are feuding with the WGA right now, like that, they truly do not care. It is nothing more than money to them. And ways to get even more money. So if you care about something, don't leave an angry comment. your downvote is not really gonna matter. uh, making a 12-hour YouTube essay on why Brie Larson sucks again is not going to matter at all. It like support the strikes that are going to happen, because apparently SAG-AFTRA has authorized a strike, and in a couple months we may see one coincide with the WGA. We shall see. But I seemingly am getting away from the point. But really, Max is the epitome. There's a lot of other services that could easily represent these problems, but Max is our punching bag for a reason, because the guy running it is so effing stupid. He's smart, don't get me wrong. He knows how to play the game, but he's so brazenly dumb that he thinks he can like give a commencement speech at some college,
Boston University.
Yeah, exactly. And think he has like the authority to. That's how arrogant he is. Yep. And these board people are, and these CEOs are. So like, really, if you care about something, download it, support the creators directly through like literally look up on Twitter, like, hey, who's an animator here that I really, really enjoy? Like, oh, okay. Like this dude. Okay. Yeah. This person, I'm going to send something to them through Patreon, buy him a coffee or something. Like direct aid is a little different from that, but that more direct patronage is the most effective thing you can do in terms of like actually supporting art. As for these streaming services, I don't even know what to tell you, dude. I'm cutting the cable on the streaming services now. And like, I think the last thing we have is Netflix, and I'm about to cut that out and just go on whatever my parents have. So this like, between AI, the Max thing, and all the stuff that represents, and the strike, the front lines of the strike, the movie industry is absolutely this is a flashpoint. This 2023 is a flashpoint and a crisis. Like, full stop. I try not to overemphasize, but we really are here now.
This is a tsunami. It's not even a tornado, it's a tsunami.
1000%. And like, but the years before with like, Marvel shit, Disney shit, that is like an empire in decline. Not Disney, but like just movies overall, the Fast franchise, and just what they're representative. Again, casting choices, story choices, does not matter at all. None of that shit matters. I'm talking about what these things are indicative of in the wider industry. It is like empire in decline, like Roman Empire, hundreds of years in decline shit, and now it's coming to a head. Yeah. This is going to be a crazy ass year for movies in the industry.
I keep telling my friends, I'm like, I hope you guys are like enjoying the year of movies we're getting, because next year we'll probably be fine too. It's 2025 and 2026. Yeah. You will see the fallout of everything that has been happening with mergers, this strike, and whoever knows what the hell is going to happen by the end of the year for the entertainment industry. I keep telling everybody, man, I'm like, yeah, sure. Like, the Marvel movies held down, like what he was saying, Fast and Furious and all that stuff. Like, like what franchises were doing in terms of like, what studios wanted to put out there and everything, and how much they wanted to put out, what it did to shows and streaming and everything. It definitely did change, like, it definitely changed the industry and how, like, studios want to approach stuff and, just try to become franchises and everything. And it kind of, is it directly corresponding to all this? Not all of it, but like some of that mentality did lead to this point. Like, who knows what led to like Warner Bros. Really going bankrupt and everything. The whole streaming wars thing, everybody trying to find their franchise and like, trying to find their writers and like, having this amount of shows and everything that led to the writer's strike and whatnot. There's just so much stuff that has been happening for the past few years. Rather than, like Dom was saying, rather than focusing on the stupid shit that a lot of people focused on, like Brie Larson as Captain Marvel, you guys didn't really focus on like the actual real stuff of it. It was like, yeah, like, are you guys paying attention to the behind the scenes stuff, the people who are making this stuff, what's happening there? And no one really did.
100%. Yeah, no, Dom, I love what you said about the flashpoint of a year that this is, between the convergence of the emergence of AI, the rebranding of Max, and then the ongoing writer strike, which we would have touched on today, but we had to talk about the other flashpoint happening of Max's rebranding.
If you want to get millions of men involved in this fight, Quentin Tarantino needs to get in this fight hardcore. which I don't know if he has not or has been. But if you want to get all the toxic males in on this fight, Quentin Tarantino needs to be on the front lines of this strike.
I've only seen Nolan and who's the director of Black Panther? Oh my God,
Ryan Coogler.
I've only seen those.
That's good.
Show
That's
up
good.
At actual strikes.
It's good. Those are names.
So I would love to see, of course, Scorsese, Tarantino show up, but who knows?
Spielberg. It'd be nice to see one of these.
Spielberg was there. Spielberg was there.
Oh, Spielberg was there. Good for him.
Deep fake Robert De Niro's aging body, aging face onto someone younger, and then he can kick Zaslav with his old ass body. But
on that note, we should wrap this up. A great episode of Sleepless with Steve. 2 heavy hitter topics in our Fast X review, as well as our review, or as well as talking about Max too. So that did prompt for a lot of fun stuff. Next week we are reviewing The Machine, the Bert Kreischer film. That's what we're tackling next week. The Bert Kreischer comedy. I wasn't going to subject you guys to The Little Mermaid. I don't want to see it. I didn't assume you guys wanted to see it.
Too woke for me. Too woke for me.
I am seeing it, but I don't really want to review it. I'm only seeing it because my friends want to go see it.
I'd rather talk about The Machine. I like Bert Kreischer. I like that joke that he does too. I like that machine joke he makes a part of his stand-up. And you know what? We don't review a ton of comedies on this show either. And there's not a lot of comedies that are released in theaters. So I like to support. I still like to go to the theater and laugh. That's why I want to go see this movie. We're going to review it here next week on Sleepless with Steve. This has been a very long but very fun episode of Sleepless with Steve. Credit to Joe for an amazing bit, one of the best bits in recent Sleepless history as well. We will be back next Wednesday, same time, same place. In the meantime, for Joe Viso, Dominic Guanzon, and yours truly, this has been Sleepless with Steve.